I'm at the second oldest railway workshop in the world. We're right by the Cromford Canal. Today we're going to see tunnels, aqueducts, pump houses and wharfs. You're in for a treat. Today I'm on the Cromford Canal. This is a canal I've covered before, right at the start. It's 14.5 miles long and starts near Nottingham in a place called Langley Mill and runs up to Cromford, as the name would suggest. We are at Gregory Tunnel first though, just here. It's a very short tunnel, 76 yards long. It's the final tunnel on this canal of 4. There's 3 tunnels that are very short, all under 100 yards, and then you've got the massive Burley Tunnel, which is 3,083 yards, I believe. It's one of the longest in the country, or was before it was abandoned. That collapsed in about 1900, which was basically the end of the canal. It wasn't the first time it had collapsed, which was a problem. It had collapsed, I think it was in 1883 as well, when there had been subsidence, and that made this end of the canal completely redundant. It is truly awful weather today. I'm coming up filming elsewhere, so I thought I'd pop here and try and pick something on the way up, because I do quite like this canal. But the other end of the tunnel here, look, quite high portal actually, and you'll see as we go through this walk today that it's an absolutely glorious area. It's stunning, and we're in the Derbyshire Dales, and it's just rolling, it's hills and woodland and everything. It's beautiful. You've got the River Derwent, which runs just below us here, and the canal overflows into it in various places. Much like this one here, this comes out from here underneath the towpath. It cascades down this hill and runs down towards the River Derwent just below us in the valley there. And then the first signs of the railway. We've got the aqueduct here. This is an iron aqueduct. This wouldn't have been original, obviously. The railway came after, but that comes down through here and straight into a tunnel under there. A really nice spot here. Probably once double tracked by the looks of it. I'm not sure how long that is, but this is a major part of our story today. As we go on up through, we're going to come across the High Peaks Railway, and that joined on to this as one of the world's first railways. Let's go and find it. I can't stand a rainy day. I hate it, especially when I'm out filming. But further back there in the canopy, you've got the tree canopy coming across, and you've got the droplets of water coming off and hitting the canal all the way through, and it's quite a sight, to be honest with you. Before the Burley Tunnel, there was a junction for the Pinkerton Arm, and from that point, the last lock was there. After the Pinkerton Junction, this canal is a contour canal, so there are no more locks. Every single bit of it will be aqueducts, tunnels and embankments, and you can really see that here where we're built into the hillside here. It's absolutely stunning in behind us here, all the way around, and this follows the contour of the hill around up towards our next stop, which is actually another junction, and right there, that area is just teeming with history. And here we are, Aqueduct Cottage. Now this was abandoned in about 1960 and was left to ruins, and over the past few years it's been completely renovated. So this branch was built by Peter Nightingale in 1802. He was the great uncle of Florence Nightingale, who I'm pretty sure you may have heard of, and it's thought she visited here when she lived locally in Lea. It sits on this junction with the aqueduct. Some more bits we're getting on to soon. We've got a beautiful swing bridge here, a little footpath, and off into the cottage. So there was once a swing bridge here, which we'll get to in a second because I think I can see where it's sat. And this was obviously a stop gate here. So this would have closed to stop water being stolen down the canal. You've got stop planks in there now, closing that off. And then let's go pop across to the Aqueduct Cottage. So this was restored very recently, and there are some talks going on at the moment about it. I'll put links in the description for it so you can learn a bit more about it. It's a lovely building to have back by the canal. And then we go over the Lea Aqueduct, which is quite hard to get decent shots of. It's very covered in trees, like everything else around here. But this takes us over the River Derwent, which, believe it or not, feeds the canal. And as we come through around by this tree now, you'll see why. And here we have the Lea Pump House. It was built in 1849. And it was designed to pump water up from the River Derwent below, up into the canal. And it is an absolute beast. It comes up from a 140 metre tunnel to a reservoir in the bottom of the pump house. and then the pump itself pumps up to the top just over here, and that can pump 39,000 tons of water every 24 hours. It ran constantly from 1849 till 1944 when it was all switched off when the canal was closed. It was restored in 1979 by the Cromford Canal Society, and they do run it every so often now. So if you come across to here, you'll see where it pumps to. You can see these white fences just up here. I think that's an overflow on that side back down to the river, but just here the water will be pumped up and come into the canal. And then we've got the transhipment warehouse, which is quite a cool structure on the side here. This was the start of the High Peak Railway. Now the High Peak Railway ran from here and it ran all the way up to Buxton, which is quite far away. And this is where they had the wharf, and this is where they would have took the goods off and they would have loaded it up onto carts, and it would have been taken away by horses. This ran side by side through the canal for a little bit, and then eventually got to the next bit, which we'll go to and have a little look round. So this wasn't actually the original building. This was built in 1850 to replace the earlier canal building, and the engines or the trucks used to come in through the end there, through those doors, and they were then loaded up from the goods from the canal. The trucks could go all the way through and go through the other side as well, underneath that canopy. So over the Spring Bridge we then get to the workshops, and these are the second oldest railway workshops in the world. They were built between 1826 and 1830, and they obviously serviced all the vehicles on this. This, as I said, was horse-drawn, but did have inclines on it. So from here, and you can see the start of one now, there were a total of 9 inclines carrying the trucks up 1,000 foot, and this didn't connect to a railway. This was built because at the time this was still canal era. They couldn't get 1,000 foot up without a lot of locks, and there just wasn't the water source for it. So they built these tramways and took it from here to the Peak Forest Canal. So you can see here, you still got a big pulley, and they would have originally had chains on before these sort of steel ropes were invented. And that would have, there were 2 tracks, and you would have had, you got one side here and one side there. It's standard gauge, I believe, and you would have pulled, as you pulled one up, the other one would have come down. We're just going to take a little walk along here. We're not going to follow the whole route, it's a very long route, but you will start to see just how steep this is. And this leads on to a little bit I just want to find and show you, which is pretty cool if I can see it. So if you want to talk in canal, 1,000 foot is probably 100 locks. Most locks are sort of 8 to 11 foot in depth. You do get deeper ones, but yes, it's a long old way. I'm not sure if this is the original tunnel or not. It's corrugated, it's quite dark in here, and this stonework on the side looks a little bit newer as well. Yeah, so you've got bolts and stuff through here. I think this was possibly filled in and rebuilt at some point. So the last thing they wanted on something this steep, so there were 9 of these all along this route. What they didn't want just here is for any runaway carts to plough down, hit the rail below, and knock the canal out of action, as well as the tramway itself. So the track would have split, and you would have had tracks coming either side, and then the track would have come down the middle, and you would have had like a pitman, I think they were called. And if there was a problem, as the carriage was coming down, they'd ring a bell. If the bell was rung quickly, you knew there was a problem. And I think he would then change the points. I think he's a pointsman was what he was called actually. He would change the points, and it would then send the wagon down into the pit rather than going down the tracks. And if you look down in here, you can see one that was the last one to crush down through here. I believe this was in the 1950s, and is still here rotting away now. Look at that, that's very cool. So you imagine if that, full of goods, had made its way all the way down to the wharf down at the bottom, it would have caused utter devastation for the gears, for the canal itself, and for any transportation and transshipment of goods. Absolutely brilliant now. At the top of each of these, they would have had an engine at the top driving another wheel and pulling that chain up. Like I said, they replaced them with ropes. I know one of them had to have 2 different sets going up because it was too long. When they replaced them with like the more sort of steel rope, they managed to get rid of one of those and knock it down. It's quite cool. You've got a couple of the carriages up here as well. Should have a quick look in. There's a big visitor centre here. Very cool. Yeah, so you can see on here, look, this wood down here, that's where, so exactly what you said, they would have split off, and then the trucks would have run down into the engine house, and lifted up to the next section. Horses would have then took over and carried on through the route. So just a quick peek at the buildings here before we carry on down the canal. This would have been an old, I guess, semaphore, which you'd have been able to see further up. So you'd be able to see the signal being pulled to not sort of come any further. You still see old tracks in here. Look through to the workshop, which is at the back here. This would have been pretty busy in its time. There you go, look. That would have run through into here, where they would have repaired all the trucks. The vehicle inspection pit, which would be much like they have nowadays for MOTs. You can get underneath and do repairs from underneath the carriage. And this would have been the old forge. There, look. See where they've blown out the bellows to blow air into it, create more fire. And then obviously here's where you'd be beating this stuff into shape. So there would have been tracks running along the side of the canal here as well. I think it's 2 tracks running along down through this area here. And I believe that was for more areas for loading and stuff like that. As you can see, the weather is awful, and we are just on the last little bit now back to Cromford Wharf. So here we are at Cromford Wharf. You can see there's 2 buildings here. The one on the right was built in 1794, just after the canal opened. It was called the Gothic Warehouse because of the castellations on the end of this structure. A second warehouse was constructed in 1824 and was used to store goods. There's a cafe in there now and a shop as well. So the boats would have come under here to be unloaded and into the warehouse there. And if we come across to this one, there's a cafe in here, as well as just over there's Cromford Mills. There's quite a lot going on over there. That's for another video. Got the boat down here, and these for day trips under the awning. You see how that would have benefited when they were unloading certain goods. They wouldn't have wanted to get soaking wet before they loaded it into the warehouse. Just on the other side of there, the wharf comes all the way through here, look. And there's a crane just above us there, still intact. Anyway, that's the end of this one. Thanks for watching. Sorry I look like a drowned rat, but have a great day.